Hi, everybody. Today's chapter spotlight is Ezra chapter 4. Ezra chapter 4 tells us about a group of Jews who were trying to rebuild the temple of God after some 70 years of captivity. Opposition to the work rose up from people living in and around the community. Of course, these opposers did not worship God. We read in verses 4 and 5, "Then the people of the land weakened the hands of the people of Judah and troubled them in building, and hired counselors against them to frustrate their purpose all the days of Cyrus king of Persia, even until the reign of Darius king of Persia." There are many verbs in this verse that are sort of troubling. Weakened the hands of the people of Judah and troubled them in the building, and hired counselors against them to frustrate their purpose all the days of Cyrus king of Persia. Bottom line, they did not want the house of God rebuilt, and they would do everything in their power to see that the effort was stopped. They would complain to the king. They would make up stories that weren't true, and they would end up stopping the project. Does this sound at all familiar to you? Again, we see several verbs used here: weaken, troubled, frustrate, or, in other words, to make afraid, to defeat, to discourage. The enemy is still seeking to weaken the hands of God's people. The devil hates God's house, and he'll do anything in his power to prevent his work, God's work, from moving forward. Are we as Christians building up the house of God while the world tries to tear it down? It's so important that we as Christians try to build up God's work. In Proverbs 27:17 we read, "Iron sharpeneth iron, so a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend." We read in Galatians 6:2, "Bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ." In closing, do we pray for each other, encourage one another, help where we can at God's house? We have enough opposition from outside of the brethren. Let's work together to build each other up, and in so doing, build up God's house. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a blessed day.